Tina Bennett-Burton. I actually moved up here in 2014 with my husband and my daughter. She went to TCA, and we had 2 foreign exchange students from, one from France and one from Thailand that went to R.L. Turner. My business has been up here at Dallas Medical Center since 2017. We opened up a nonprofit, and that's why we moved into the hospital. That was a requirement of our IRB. That's an review board, basically, medical review board. So our daughter moved away, and I needed to find something better to do with my time than just run a nonprofit. So I actually opened up my clinic again and started seeing patients. We moved in, we had a decision to make to continue to rent or to own property, which is a better fiscal decision. So we started looking. We bought the property at Valley View. Basically, we took possession of it in April and moved into it in May. And then my husband and I moved over from the Crossbrook Estates behind it in June. We had always intended on running for D3. In truth, we were aiming for 2024 because we've had our interactions with the city and we know what needs to be done. When we moved up here, I've dealt with the city council to help get the engineering done for the creek, the Farmers Branch Creek that runs through. We were one of 165 properties that were on the creek at the time. We were the only property that did not own the creek. And so we had a very different perspective on it. But then when we realized, we paid for a second engineering firm to come in, at which point we realized the priorities and how the funding was going wasn't actually going to fix the creek. So we became very involved in that to manage that and function through that with the city and for the citizens. So fast forward to 2017, we're in the clinic. I do my researches with Quest Diagnostics. We're published multiple times over. We purchased over here in this year, so 2022, moved in. I find out the seat's available, so we had a decision to make. I started asking questions to make certain that we were eligible. We were 100% eligible, and so we've moved forward with doing it. I called Tracy and asked her, buy in on it just to see what it looked like. I want to know fully what to expect moving into it. So owning a business here, opening up a commercial property here, we've been through that process. We know the challenges that it takes to do that and work through with the city. We went up with the city on that. I've been to Austin and testified in Austin. So I'm intimately familiar with the dynamics of the personalities that you have to work with and through, and how to do that and how to functionally work through different personalities. Talk about being on a dime with a patient that's complicated, done it. Employment, done it. It's just, I'm a small business owner. And I've worked with corporate America doing research. So there's not much that we haven't had to paper push around, negotiate. I'm so thrilled to find out that we do funding quite well here with applying for grants, and that's, I think, positive for everybody. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that does put money back in your pockets. But with that, I also know that there have been issues, and even as recently as last night, evidently, civil discourse is permissible, but as adults, we're adults, and we need to civilly have a conversation and talk things out and realize that there's always more than one way to skin a cat, but we have to figure out the right way for the citizens, because that's who we represent, or the citizens, constituents. It's not an I statement, it's a we statement, because we are in it together. We are each other's neighbors. We do need to get along. That's why I think I'm a good candidate for it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to some questions if anybody wants to fire away. Terry?
Of course, I was just gonna ask, if both the candidates could state if they've been on any boards or commissions here in the city?
I've been on the senior advisory board.
And how long were you there?
I was there 6.5 months.
I've not been on any boards here in Farmers Branch. Most of the time, the last 20 plus years, I've been working for the federal government. I've been a Customs and Border Protection officer. I was on call basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never know when you're gonna have to serve in your duty. You don't know when your off days are gonna be. So if I were to try to get on a board, there's a very good chance I would have to resign because I couldn't have the opportunity and the time to serve with it. And as a matter of fact, I spent 7.5 years working overseas with Customs and Border Protection in various countries. And so I just wouldn't have had the opportunity to do it. You can only basically serve one master when you're working as a public servant. But if it does add, I actually did work at the Parks Department here in Farmers Branch when I was in high school. Did that for about 3 years.
2 years ago?
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. What did that look like, Border Patrol?
Well, I was Customs and Border Protection. So
Okay.
basically, I started as an immigration inspector. So basically, after 9/11, Immigration and Customs joined together to create Customs and Border Protection. They were both moved to the Department of Homeland Security, which I'm actually a charter member of the Department of Homeland Security. So that's how that came to be.
Okay.
Okay, I'll ask one, I'll ask you a question, James. You mentioned that the cities was divided and you wanted to, restore our reputation.
Well,
I feel like we're probably more divided now than we ever have.
we have been becoming divided in the last few months, but if you recall back in the day, I know where you're going with this, there was a time in the city where we were divided, and we were terribly divided. And it got so bad that it was hard to get businesses to come to Farmers Branch. And when our grocery store across the street closed down, it was the Albertsons. It took years to get a grocery store to come back. And there was a period there where we had an opportunity to get a grocery store, but we were so divided, people wouldn't agree to what kind of grocery store. So it took a long time, and if you lived in this part of the city, you had to travel a bit to get to a grocery store. If you lived in Brookhaven, yeah, you had the Tom Thumb right there in Addison, but that money's leaving Farmers Branch. If you lived in, say, the Marsh Lane, LBJ area, you had Sprouts. That was convenient, but, you know, that money's leaving Farmers Branch. So, yeah,
But you're talking about divisiveness from 15, 16 years ago.
It
You're not seeing
lasted-
divisiveness now?
Oh, I didn't say that,
Okay.
Mike. I said, in the last few months, you're starting to see it again. So that's.
Where? Can you give an example?
See, sure. Of course, I know you've been seeing what's going on at City Hall. So,
So,
Well,
this is, it's not my form, but
I
I
know,
did
but that's
serve
your
for
second
six,
question, so am I
I did-
debating you or am I?
Well, no, but as a resident,
Mhm.
I'm very curious to know. But I spent 6 years on city council trying, to serve the best interests of residents. And not once did this, issue of what happened in 2008 ever come up. And so, for anybody to bring that up, I think that is not true and sort of grasping at straws. The other thing, I think I will tell you, I think you're totally wrong on the grocery store, situation over here. And, Albertsons did not move out. They were closing stores, and that was one that was on the list. We had no problem recruiting somebody once a decision was made what to do with that property.
And it sat vacant for a long time.
Yes.
It sat vacant for a very long time.
It did, but
And it was-
the city.
It was unfortunate.
Fortunately, the city and the council at that time, took steps to improve that property and get a grocery store there. They've taken a lot of steps to attract a lot of businesses here. So let me ask both of you,
So I think we have come a long way in the last 10 years.
Yeah, both of you, what would you do to attract new business to our city, or what type of business do you think that we should have coming to our city?
Any business, any small business, anything, it would be great. And I think we need to continue to attract businesses to Farmers Branch, and the way to do that is to have civil discourse.
Yeah? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. J.
Mhm.
Since you have a background on immigration,
Mhm.
okay, how do you, if you elect, how do you deal with take care right now, the immigrants? It's a crisis, how do you, if you come to Farmers, how do you deal with it? How do you handle it? How do you take
So
care of it?
are you saying how I would deal with what's going on at the border? or-
No, right now you come to Farmers Branch.
Mhm.
No immigrant come here to everywhere. How do you handle, how do you take care
Well, I
of
think
it?
if they're in the United States and they're legal here, there's no issue whatsoever. I think we should include everybody. We should be, housing for, affordable housing for everybody, you welcome them in without any problem. I don't see there's an issue there.
Tina, did you want to go back to the question that Carrie had asked?
Okay, so, it's okay. So I ask, and I ask a lot of people, and I've been asking for a good year what it looks like. What people want, what would you, because again, we had planned on 2024, this was not new for us. And people want restaurants, and I know that sounds weird, but they don't wanna travel. They want good restaurants right here, so the cheesecake place guy, is there a cheesesteak place over here? If you haven't tried it, you gotta go. It's the bomb. It is so good. And I'm not a sandwich person, but I love that place. So plug for the cheesesteak guy.
I have not had there, but I've had Roots, it's great.
It's Roots is great.
We're having a
Yeah.
lot of nice restaurants here that we couldn't get before.
Right.
They're coming, in the last 10 years, it's gotten much, much better.
And so, but for that to happen, we also need the safety. I mean, if you look at the safety reports, and our poor police officers are just run ragged, we're short-staffed, and we need the best of the best if we want businesses to be attracted here. And, we're in a moment, housing-wise, where people don't have a choice, they have to buy wherever they can get the bid in, right? But we want them to stay as well, because that market will change. And so we are at a prime opportunity to go out and ask people, and I know Wayne has sought after restaurants to come in, but it is a challenge, honestly, to do business in Farmers Branch sometimes, just to get the permits, just to get, to function through. And I'm intimately aware of that, and so we just need to make it easier. And I'm so happy that now we've got like fresh blood in the market, of our staff, and the morale is becoming uplifted again, and they're, working with one another and not so segregated. And we just have to continue down that path. We just keep building on that, keep building on the positives, so businesses will come back, and good businesses. Because once they get here, we want them to stay. Marshall's is looking at leaving.
I spoke to the owner there, he said they were gonna stay in Farmers Branch.
Yeah.
But they're probably gonna have to relocate.
Yeah.
But they're gonna stay in Farmers Branch. And that's good news, I've been going there since I was a little kid. So, I think it's very important, we try to keep as many businesses as we can.
Tina, the process for, the licensing and all of that kind of stuff, I would assume that would take some rewriting of policy.
Actually.
That can be a bear, I know.
Well, we are coming up under charter review, so these are things that we do have an opportunity to work on, and tweak a little bit. We don't have to rewrite the book, but some things do need to be tweaked. But with that being said, because we had been so short-staffed, it was hard to work through the process. I mean, it really came down to being just short-staffed and people not wanting to work together. I mean, just not, the left hand and the right hand not speaking and playing nicely in the sandbox.
Are you talking about city employees, or are you talking about the council, or a combination of?
A combination of all of it.
I've got an apolitical question. John Land, in my view, was a tremendous asset to this city. There may be things that I'm not aware of, but what I saw was a guy who was always out there hustling, always trying to make things better. And so, how do we replace a John Land and expand upon a John Land? If I'm anywhere close to right, if somebody wants to tell me, man, you are way off on that, that's fine. But he took my calls, he met with me regularly, and, as a business person, you know, it was really, really valuable.
Well, I understand that we had a search recently, and they decided not to hire anyone yet, so, they didn't pull from outside the area, so,
They did have a search.
they did have a search.
It didn't go well.
Didn't go well,
So they had a couple of candidates, and I was really happy, and I think that we can 100% agree on this one. They put those candidates in front of the employees and allowed the employees from input, and the personalities just weren't gonna work.
Right,
And-
so they didn't choose,
They-
they didn't choose anyone.
Right, so they paused it for a moment because they wanted the right person, and they found them internally.
So they have.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, when is that, has that been announced?
Yes.
It's already-
They have-
Ben Williams, yes.
Yes, Ben Williams.
Yeah.
Ben Williams, he
Oh,
was an
okay.
assistant city
Yeah,
manager.
yeah, I know that.
Can't remember the guy's name, it's assistant now, but.
Mike
he was-
Bashburn.
He was promoted also.
Yeah. There were like 7 that were promoted, so it's really, I mean, when I say fresh blood, we really do. It's quite nice to see them grow within, so.
And you think that's sufficient force to expand the, or at least make the economy more vibrant here?
I think so, as our community becomes a little younger, I mean, it is turning, we're having younger families come in with littles and, you know, coming here and having littles, and we want them to stay, and so, yeah, I think that that's really important, that they see, some freshness. I think it's important that we maintain some seasoning at the council level and the mayoral level, because they are young, they don't have a lot, you know, the depth of experience that they will have in a few years once they've been there, done that.
Okay, why am I raising my hand? I'm doing this, right? Okay, here's a question for both of them. All three of us were on that walk at the Four Corners, a week or so ago. So it was said that a 15 years ago study said that 30% of the retail in Farmers Branch or in the Four Corners area, only 30% was sustainable. And so, we were all on there. I suspect that number's gonna be very similar to what it was 15 years ago. But my question to both of you is, how do we remedy that? What's your vision for that? And what can we do to
Well, I
make
think,
that better?
I think some revitalization over here at the Four Corners would probably help, and I think, you know, one of the important things I think we need to do is also not just the retail, but because TerraPlace actually serves a great purpose here. And a lot of the businesses over there benefit because TerraPlace is here. So my concern a little bit is that, you know, TerraPlace is getting older, but I wanna make sure TerraPlace is also sustainable to help sustain the Four Corners. So what I think we need to do is make sure TerraPlace remains here and doesn't just move someday. So that, because we're sitting on, what, you have 11 acres here, 10 acres here?
11 and a half, yep.
11 and a half, which, you know, the ground underneath here is becoming more and more valuable as time goes by. And TerraPlace has always served a nice, unique niche to allow for affordable housing, to allow for persons who maybe want to stay in the neighborhood but have lost a spouse, or maybe become divorced and want something smaller because they need to downsize.
Right.
TerraPlace has always filled that gap, and we need to keep TerraPlace as long as we can, and I hope we can keep it for many years. If I'm on the council, I'll be sure and help to do that.
Tina?
I think we definitely need to look into the revitalization of the Four Corners, but that becomes a density question. And so, you know, what does that look like? How are we going to grow even the areas around it and in the periphery? I feel like, you know, and I know that we don't own Shell Mountain anymore, that land, but I don't think that that was a wise decision, because that could have helped sustain the Four Corners and other businesses on our side that was truly Farmers Branch. So we need to start making decisions that actually are not finite thinking, but are infinite thinking, so we can stay sustainable.
Quite a few years ago, there was this, and I agree, we need to, revitalize. But quite a few years ago, we went through this same conversation, and if my memory serves me correctly.
Your memory is correct.
What happened was, there were some facades that were replaced, and then nothing, and the next thing you know, we've got, Mustang Station, which is great, by the way, but it's like, so why the focus back on Four Corners, and is that something that's gonna be followed through on? Because from my perspective, that wasn't really followed through on.
Well, I had the same concern you do, because I took the walk the other day and I've heard some of the same stuff that we talked about many years ago, and you probably went to the studies back then, and, I'm not sure a whole lot has happened. Maybe it will this time, I hope so, but I know what you're talking about. We did this before, and it
Yeah,
sounds like a
it just
replay
got
from
petered out.
15 years ago.
Nothing
Right,
happened.
exactly.
Nothing's significant.
So hopefully it will this time.
Tina, you wanna respond?
Yes. So, I actually went through and dug through, I've gone through 4 years of documentations, presentations, Excel spreadsheets, you name it, I've looked at it. That was in there. So part of the issue was, they needed buy-in and from the business owners and the property owners at Four Corners. And it was supposed to be a joint venture. And to my understanding, David Clausen is not the easiest to work with. And he is actually the property owner. So the facades were updated, but other things that were promised, the community and he just did not come together on that.
So what's different now?
Good question, because he still owns it.
But, the city has the tax relief for home builders, people building homes, and, I'm aware of, some tax breaks for companies that have moved in here. And has that sort of thing been offered to the folks that have been here for 10, 15, 20 years?
To which folks, the
Are we-
commercial or the
We couldn't
residential?
get buy-in, but the businesses. We couldn't
They
get
actually-
buy-in back
yeah.
then. But was there some or was the city working with them? Because, it's kind of like that, what's that Girl Scout song, keep the old, what is it? Anyway, because it's like, you want Girl Scout.
That's so funny. There
But
is a
we
grant.
gotta keep the ones
Yeah.
that are here too, that we
Yeah.
wanna keep.
Yeah.
And maybe some that we don't wanna keep, that they're obstinate and won't move anywhere. So I'm just wondering I'm sorry, I'm a little jaded, but what's different this time? What?
There are commercial grants that we have, that the city has in place to help with facades. I don't know how well, communicated those are.
Mhm.
And I don't know that the businesses know that they're there, that there is assistance there for them.
Well, that might be a help if they knew that they were there, because if they've been here for any length of time, they're probably, there's some loyalty, there's some commitment. So why not treat them as well as we're treating new people that are coming in, and we have no idea whether they're gonna stay 5, 6 years. That's just my thought. No comment on this.
Okay, I should focus a little bit. As we all know, we've, us especially being closer to the 635 corridor there at Josie, you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
We obviously have a homeless, problem under the bridge there, and it seems to be bleeding over this way a little bit, and it's somewhat of concern. So what, as a council person, this is the both of you, can y'all help do, or to try to curb that situation?
Well, I consider it a law enforcement issue. Of course, we're gonna always support law enforcement, but it needs to be handled, easily, softly, I should say, and not come down too hard on the homeless just because they're homeless. But we wanna maintain safety, we wanna maintain health, but, is, the old saying is, there by the grace of God go I, so I don't think we should really come down too hard, but it's a police issue. At the end of the day, it's a police issue.
I have a question, which police, Dallas police or Fort Police?
Well, it'd be Farmers Branch Police, we could try to work with the Dallas Police, but if it's on the Dallas side, I'm not sure what we could do, but I wouldn't wanna, alienate the city of Dallas, or anything like that, so really, it's a Farmers Branch issue if it's on our side of the highway.
Well, one time I saw Dallas police come and clear them out.
Well, if Dallas did it, that's
I think
Dallas.
isn't it, just for clarification, isn't it Webb Chapel is Dallas, the underpass, Webb Chapel is Dallas?
The north curve
I-
on
No.
Service Road.
I think so, I think
North
you're right.
Curve, yeah,
North
yeah.
curve,
Yeah.
635 is
Let's
for
let
Farmers
Tina
Branch.
respond.
It is the north curve. So anything under 635, that is Dallas, and we cannot do anything about that. We do have city ordinances and things in place for that. We don't allow panhandlers as they come through. And I know you guys have the issue, maybe not as much for the next few months because Line Drive is closed. But they come through and they cut, and I know they do because they take showers with our water hoses in our place, as they cut down Valley View to 35. And so then it is Farmers Branch and we can do something. But the limitations of even when I've had to call, because they have walked into my business, right in and just taken things and walked right out, and my girls and I are just like, oh, well, hello, okay. So, you call them and there's if it's not theft, you can't do anything. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Unfortunately, it's not so much that they're just simply homeless, as in they're unemployed, and they are addicts. So it's more of a drug issue, and they have to be willing to get assistance. You can't make somebody want to get help.
Well, I'm not sure we actually know they're all addicts. I mean, how do we know that? I mean, we're assuming that they are, but how do you know that?
All of them that have walked by through us, I mean, when we've called the police, they are,
Is that right?
yeah. And you can, as in hill roll and try to have a conversation with them, yes. So,
Any more questions? Come on, some of y'all have been quiet, let's hear from you.
Oh, I have a, I don't know, where is Four Corner?
it's right here.
This-
Oh,
It's
that's.
the restaurants and
Oh,
and
right there.
Walmart and Walgreens, that's the
Oh.
Four Corners.
They
Okay,
go, yeah,
that's a Four Corner.
Walgreens on one side, Ace on one
Valley View
side.
and Josie.
Valley View and Josie.
Oh, wow.
All four of those corners, that's four corners.
I see.
So, what, and maybe you guys don't know, but what is actually going up over here in the shopping center where the old Chase drive-through bank was? We were told that it was gonna be townhomes, and then we heard that it was senior, living. Does anybody
Townhomes.
know?
Yeah, I believe it's townhomes, I don't believe it's senior living.
There's no limit on the age.
There's no restrictions,
Yeah.
yeah. So-
Somewhere 40-something units, 49
42.
maybe?
42.
42?
I
Yeah.
believe in it.
It's a bunch, huh?
I believe in it.
It's a bunch,
But it-
but, they do it well.
Should be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree.
Or they would tear down that shopping street next to it?
I understand part of it is coming down, and part of it is staying, is what I understand.
You've been quiet.
Yeah, Jose?
So guys, what do you think is your biggest differentiator? What makes you different from the other
There
candidates?
you go, that's a good question.
Well, myself, I'm a public servant. I worked for the federal government for almost 26 years. I think I'm a person who has a servant's heart, as it is. So I think I can continue to serve in that capacity for Farmers Branch City Council. I am retired, I have the time to dedicate to it. It's my city, it's, that I grew up in, it's my hometown. And so I'm pretty sure that, being it's my hometown, I'm not gonna let you down.
I'm a servant leader, I'm a doctor, I'm a chiropractor, I own an integrated healthcare facility here. I've been doing that since 2007, I've been serving the public consistently, so, we don't get to say no, so we just do it.
So meetings have got, I'm so sorry, was someone else? So the meetings have gotten, heated at times. If you're in a heated meeting, council meeting, how do you address these folks?
It's a good question. First thing you need to do is compose yourself so you don't lash out or lash back at anybody because they expressed an opinion that may be different than your own, or you feel you're under attack. Sometimes people aren't necessarily attacking the individual themselves, they're attacking the situation. And that's what I always had to keep in mind as a public servant, that sometimes they might say something derogatory towards me, but it really wasn't about me. It could have been about the law, or something that they just simply didn't like or didn't agree with, but it might not be the individual themselves. So first of all, you gotta compose yourself. And I think that's one of the reasons I kept being continually asked to go serve overseas representing Customs and Border Protection, because I have the capacity to be able to control myself in front of other people that are very angry. So I think I can do that pretty easily.
Definitely de-escalation. I was thinking about that after last night's meeting. I actually think, we take ethics, when we sign up to do this, even to do the board, you had to do ethics, a course on ethics and a few other things. I really feel like it would be a good idea for those that are going to serve the public. You don't have to move in with the course, but you do need to take a communication course. I really do feel like everybody communicates differently, so maybe if you could, take a communication course before you, are on in a big group like that you're required to have civil discourse, it would probably help, because not everybody comes from the same background and from the same level of communication, and the same level of which you've had to de-escalate something.
Obviously, District 3, and that's where I live in, Hispanic for sure. The Hispanic community is growing, and I know that it's growing also in District 3. How do you plan to engage them? I know that my past experience with other previous, at least 2 city councils, is like, when they're running, they ask for your help, but once they're in there, they don't know who you are, or you don't get no calls. So how do you plan to engage the Hispanic community, and what would you do to have them also be part of boards and things like this, so they can grow and develop?
Let's go to Tina first, because James keeps answering first.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's,
That's all right.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, you're right, though.
I think you're right. I actually 100% agree, and when map 7 went through, that was my very, very first thought, is how are you guys going to be represented? Because you need to be. And that's going to now be heavily, packed, and so we need to, honestly, I feel like we need to start identifying some of you guys as leaders. Come on. Step
Well, there's
up.
one right there.
Be it
Look
with
at himself.
us. Join the party.
I think he was asked to join the party, but he
Been there,
decided
done
not
that,
to.
and that's why I'm asking, because I've been there, done that, and once people get elected, they don't know who you are. They don't
And
know
that's
who you are.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate. I feel like, I know I have knocked doors. I know he has knocked doors. I don't feel like that's something that needs to change. I know I have meet and greets set up, and the reason I set my meet and greets up the way I did is so that they would be public, not be divisive, in a neutral territory. Everybody can come, everybody's welcome. As I knocked doors, I said, you don't have a question now? Come join us, ask a question then. I am open anytime. And we still have to do that. I have to do that with my patients daily. Even if I don't see them, you know, from 3 weeks ago and they send an email, I have to respond. It's respect, respond. You know, it can be a 2-second response, it can be sometimes a 20-minute response, but you must engage and respond, because without that communication, then we can't grow together as a community and become neighborly again. We have to be in this together. We are the unity in the community right here.
Well, I would always reach out to the Hispanic community, and I wouldn't even stop there. Of course, I'm gonna reach out to the Asian community and all the communities in Farmers Branch, but, you know, I think it would be very representational if we had more Hispanics on boards and on the city council. We've had some in the past. I think it'd be great. And if you'd like to serve, Jose, I'd certainly be interested in your application.
Come to the party.
You know, when you're involved for so long, you get to see the other part of politics, and sometimes you're like, bless you guys for putting your names in there. Right now, it's like, whether you're a city council, or you're a school board trustee, or you're a police officer, you're a teacher, the respect for a lot of these servants, it has to be lost, and this is something that I would like to see in our community be changed. You know, many years ago when I was involved, you know, it was like a lone guy on this road, and I had to talk to all kinds of people, and some people didn't want to talk to me because I talked to these other people, and the other people didn't want to talk to me because I talked to these other people. I'm like, look, I don't care what your difference is.
No.
I'm here to work, whoever wants to work, and I'm here to be a bridge to whatever needs to be bridged.
And that's the right attitude.
Yes, it is.
And that's what I would like to hopefully see and get the Hispanics also, not just the Hispanics, but I said Hispanic, you know, get them more involved with stuff like that, you know, reach out to them every now and then.
Absolutely.
I knocked your neighborhood first, just so you know. Did. I was like, I'm doing it right here. And I was like, oh, okay, we're not stopping, let's keep going. And my questions are, do you have a question? Do you have a concern? Do you have a suggestion? Do you have a solution? And they're like, you're asking? Like, yes. And that's when the light bulb for me came on, that no, they've not been asked. They've not been asked. No one is asked.
And this difference in between Hispanics, I mean, I'm not trying to, but, you know, working with the Chamber of Commerce and them, it's like, you don't see a lot of them here other than probably me and you, right? And those are the things that I was talking to the Chamber in the past, but, you know, you have a lot of Hispanic-owned businesses, and the only way that you're gonna reach out to them is not by sending a flyer. You really need to go out there and knock the door and make conversation, get them involved, you know, and those are the things. It's just a different breed, and, you know, not every Hispanic that lives in Farmers Branch is a legal immigrant. So that's not the case. A lot of them, if not most of them, they're legal immigrants.
Hardworking.
And for one reason or another, it's not a priority to become a citizen, but they're still legal immigrants, property owners, and they pay to the tax, right? So they need to be represented.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely.
So,
That's why I asked Mr. J about that specific minority people. I said immigrants, that means a lot of ethnic, like Haiti, Jamaica, Korea, Vietnamese, all of this. That's in general,
Right.
not the specific ethnic.
Okay, anybody else being quiet, wanna speak up?
So we talked a little bit about the four corners.
Oh, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
We talked a bit about the four corners. In terms of, aggressive redevelopment of Farmers Branch, I guess maybe I should start with the fact that this is an incredible suburb. Location, 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 that
Exactly.
kicks it off.
It's always been location, location,
And
location.
we need to remember that as we go forward, but we've been aggressive, but, so, Corners versus Mustang, clearly, we were more aggressive at Mustang than at Four Corners. How do you guys see priorities for redevelopment? East, west, et cetera?
We'll start James this time.
I'm all for more redevelopment. I think Farmers Branch has come a long, long way in the last few years. And we wanna continue that, absolutely. I think the B Street area, it's attractive, it brings people to our area, it keeps money from escaping Farmers Branch. I happen to live right between both, and you do too now, right? You just moved there as well, a few months ago. So I can walk, the walkability is great for me, because I can walk between B Street, I can walk between the Four Corners, everything's accessible, you got doctor's offices, you've got pharmacies there. I don't wanna lose any of those businesses. And I think it's a great place to live if you have all of those things, and that helps attract more people to Farmers Branch. So I think we must continue to revitalize that area, and we must do everything we can to keep that area very vibrant. And if there's other areas of Farmers Branch we can work on, that'll be great too. Did I answer your question a little bit? Or?
Yeah, you're good there.
All right, great.
Keep going. Keep going.
Great, no, that's it.
Okay, Tina.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
With the Four Corners, it really does come down to who owns all the property, and they really are trying. I know the business development with Farmers Branch is truly trying to reach out to them and work with those with the property owners, not just the businesses that are leasing, but the property owners, to engage them, to work with us to do that. Just some of them aren't as easily negotiable as others. So as going down to Mercer Crossing, my understanding of what has transpired is the development happened, it happened quickly. We had kind of promised the developer, we as the city council had promised the developer to work a little more closely with them to help bring some businesses in, and we dropped the ball on that. And so we just need to pick the ball back up and move forward with it and start knocking on doors and calling, businesses. And business development is sales. And I think that's something, whoever, is, just understand that business development is sales, and that's a phone call. That's a knock on a door. It's a phone call. It's a phone call. It's a phone call until you finally get the answer you want, or somebody that can put you, you can't quit on that one. You just gotta forge forward. Taking no for an answer is just not an answer if we wanna continue to grow.
In relations to Four Corners and stuff like Bennett-Burton and all this good stuff, I know that a lot of this stuff is out of your control, because it's cold and all that different things, but I live here and I'm also a general contractor, and I'm always pulling permits and stuff like this, so I really have to know code and stuff like that. But sometimes every time I go through the Four Corners, it drives me nuts that if I'm doing an 8-foot fence, I get a lot of lead sometimes. And I have to meet with Ben Williams to hopefully change certain things there. But then Four Corners was supposed to be like this nice place for all of us around here. And then you have businesses that I hope we're not putting businesses just because it's an empty area to fill the space, but you got a nice place with Walmart store, and then you have Panda Express there. And then also you cross that little street, and the back of that building is facing the most important part. It makes no sense why.
You're talking about the entry to, the entry into the
Into
Walmart?
the little shopping center,
Where they
yeah.
put the new retail, so to
Yeah,
speak?
it's like a dental
Yeah.
place, it's like, what the heck
Yeah,
happened here?
we started on that.
Yeah, I wonder why that, like, they just build facing to the wall, to the street, the other
Yeah.
side facing to
Correct, it's like,
Josie.
You know,
Same thing with Mustang Station. I could have had it full by now if they would have flipped the design. Cox should be on the east side, the restaurant should be on the west side, so that you can have the ambiance of outdoor seating without the sun bearing, that you can't even go in Red Sticks in the summertime because of the heat. But anyway, that's some details, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I say, it's just making, a lot of it,
Kind of.
those decisions are made before they come to you guys, but by the time they come to you, say something about it, it's like, good, good idea.
I'll give you a good example on that. So we're walking, and this was directly, I think you were standing there when I was asking the question about the traffic study, and I was told that she didn't understand the question, so I was like, are you gonna put a stop sign in? And I was just like, break it down. And they were like, we didn't think about that. Okay, so how did we get to this moment? You know, how did we get to, we've broken ground, we've got Line Drive that you're gonna open back up, Terra Place that's. Lineville. Lineville that's gonna come through, Terra Place that's coming into it, you know, the other road that's gonna be between the two, and, you know, you're not gonna have a stop sign, so they're just gonna plow through, and but you're adding more traffic. And I feel like, the traffic studies is maybe something that we're weak on, that we could plug back into and just do a little bit better at for things like that. I feel like they get so excited about the new development, but the devil is in the details. And, you know, no one wants to be a Debbie Downer or the naysayer, but you need a stop sign there. And so therefore, we need to be better about asking questions. And I know that this has been an issue in the past, that the council members haven't read everything, but it's quite a bit to read before you get there, before you get to the meeting. But you have to, that's the responsibility. If you choose to take this job, that is our responsibility, to do the due diligence before you get there, so things like that don't happen.
Yeah, and then build it just, whatever.
James.
What's it gonna look like pulling from what I think is seen as three farmers branches? That we've got the core, the center area, Marshland over 35, right? We've got the west side, we've got the east side, but they're like, I mean, you go through and it's like you're in a different suburb each time. I was on the Arts and Culture Committee for about a year and a half, 2 years, and, that was something that we were constantly, how can we make this, you know, tie all of this together? Because there's a lot, there's a lot over on the west side that, you know, I asked, and I won't say who I asked, but I said, Farmers Branch is built as city in the park, right? Where are the parks out there? There are none.
There are none.
There's none.
The west side?
They're going off the west side.
When you say the west side, you're referring to the west side of the,
Mercer.
yeah, the west side of the expressway.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it used to be, another part of the city of Farmers Ranch was called the west side, but now we gotta look beyond to the.
But, you know, they're talking about the walking trail, which is all well and good, but I'm telling you right now, there's no way, when I walk at 5 o'clock in the morning, that I'm gonna cross under 35 and walk around that way by myself. You know?
Right.
So, I mean, it's almost like, it's here, it's here, it's here. The big gaps in between. Are there plans to kind of pull everything together? I know they're expanding, you know, the freeway again. Don't get me started about public transportation.
Why are you looking at me?
Because. I know you. But it's almost like there's this development, not really much of anything, this development, not much of anything, and then, you know, they're doing a lot of development over on the east side, you know, with the artists and, you know, the creatives and that sort of thing. So, and being on the Arts and Culture Committee, I had access to folks from each of these different areas, and they're kind of siloed. That's how everybody feels, is we're siloed.
Well, I can understand
Is
that.
there a question there?
I'm just wondering.
If we can develop a way
Is that
to,
the way it is, or, you know, are we gonna become one
Okay.
city?
well, if we,
Yeah, how do you do that?
if you're
That's a
talking.
good question, I think.
Okay.
I I think it is a good question, and if there is a way to tie it all together, I'm all ears, I'd be happy to listen if you have some ideas on how to do that. But I've always kind of looked at Farmers Branch as one city, but I see what you're talking about, especially with the new development on what we're calling the west side. You're right, there are no parks over there. And when my wife and I were looking to where we want to live in Farmers Branch, when we were thinking about moving, which we did move from Terra Place, we were looking and thinking that side, but there's no parks, and we would rather have a place like Gussie Field to walk at. So, yeah, so we were just happier, you know, moving into the new development, which is right there at Valley View and Rawhide Creek, because we love the parks, and I think the parks are very important. But the other side just doesn't have it over there, and that was one of the reasons we chose what we chose, is because of that.
There's a 2018 redevelopment study that was done, and they are planning some parks. It's just going to take time for the development to transpire, and that was actually part of the contracts with the developers and how
I
to do
know
that.
they talked about putting an amphitheater out there, and I understand that's gone.
Also, for me, it's about trees too. The parks are about trees, and it will take years to grow trees over there. And I just happen to be a person who loves trees.
Yeah,
So
we're talking about the walkability from where you live.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, absolutely. I can start out here and walk just about everywhere in this part of Farmers Branch. But it's really, really difficult. I can tell you, I haven't been over on that side except heading out to 635 in the airport.
Right.
You know, I was shocked when I was out there recently at all the development that's going on.
Well, my wife and I occasionally will go biking out to Campion Trail. The problem with that is on once you get past 635 on Valley View, and if you try to do it during the week,
Yeah.
there's you're competing against 18-wheelers. And it's a little bit, you know, a little bit intimidating, but we try and we like to do it, and we're looking forward to the new park over there. The John Burke Park opening up would be a great addition when they're finished with it, just a great improvement. And then we can kind of have two parks to go to in one ride, but we do like going over there. It's just that it would be, I personally would think it'd be better if we had some bike lanes that was a little bit more established, shall we say.
There's another area that I'm a little bit concerned, especially at night. I don't think there's enough lighting, and I don't know what you guys think. I think that if we want to build something, it should be like a bridge, under bridge or over bridge right here at Josie at Dolphin Green and Rawhide, because there's
That is so
no
dangerous.
lights there, but
I
a
know
lot of
it's
people
not.
don't respect them.
Well, it's not that they don't respect them, it's you're coming down a hill, and by the time you
Right.
see it, it's too
Right.
late.
So there's an area that, for our district, I would like to see something happen there. I wish I could win the lottery tomorrow and say, you know what, here's $10 million, let's redesign this area. I mean, you know, there's something that I think the city should look at, because it's a very,
Right, and if we had a
Obviously,
pedestrian
quite a bit.
bridge, like you said, it probably costs a lot of money, but if we had a pedestrian bridge that somebody could cross separately with the traffic, and not just on that little narrow sidewalk, but a pedestrian bridge that went over Rawhide Creek, where the kids could take their bike, and we, you know, people on foot could just walk across. I think it'd be great, but I don't know if we could afford that, but if we ever could, I think it'd be a great addition to the neighborhood.
well, we should.
So 6, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, just millions.
Yeah, I know, you gotta be careful, I know, you gotta be careful, but if you had it.
Are going into the glow-in-the-dark park? Okay, 5.5. Sorry.
Right.
My math.
Well, I believe that's
Would
mostly.
you, would you still do that?
It's federal money, as I understand, and state money, so it's not costing us an awful lot to do it. So I'm for parks, so, you know,
That's still our dollars. We pay federal taxes, all of us in this room.
well, I understand that, but it's not coming
We
from
didn't
the
get
city
to vote
budget.
on it.
Is it coming
Nobody
from,
got to vote on it, James.
is it coming from the city budget?
No, it's not coming from the city.
It's
That's not
$11.97 million that we got half of it this year, and we get half of it next year. That was discretionary spending, which meant it could have been used on education, it could have been used on small businesses, it could have been used on infrastructure. It very specifically said, for any COVID damaged industry, anything COVID damaged, and I struggle to find the fact that a park got COVID. But with that, I think all the parks needed to be updated, not just one park. I think all of the parks needed to be updated. If we are a city in the park, all of our children, every single one of them deserves to have a nicer park. So we did not need to spend $4.2 million from one grant and $750,000 from the other. The $750,000 from the other grant could not be used for anything else. It had to be used on something like that. But every park, every child should deserve that money. And at the very least, we should have been allowed to vote on it, to decide that.
If
So you
necessary.
might not do it.
Let's let him talk, he hasn't
Oh.
talked. Go ahead.
If necessary, would you be, in favor of shifting funds from one part of the budget to another to, get the police department back up to standard?
Yes.
No, thank you.
Sure, I'm always gonna be protecting the police and fire, I'm all for it.
Raising
what-
salaries if necessary and.
If
whatever it
necessary,
takes.
of course.
Yeah.
And I think we just went to a 20-year retirement instead of a 25-year retirement as well. So I think that maybe encourages more police officers to wanna come to Farmers Branch perhaps because they can retire after 20 years instead of 25.
Mhm.
I know myself, being a first responder, if I had the opportunity to leave at 20 years, yeah, I might have done it, but I needed to stay a little bit longer to get my full retirement. But I can see it would attract some people.
Okay, so I have a question for both candidates, but I'm gonna direct it towards you
Mhm.
first to start. So since we've been here, we haven't really heard a lot about what you can offer Farmers Branch or what you can do if you were elected. Can you elaborate a little more on that, other than what you've done in the past or what you would like to do? What are your things that you wanna bring to Farmers Branch?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna listen to you, try to listen to all the public, take that information and try to go forward, keep Farmers Branch going the direction it's been going for the last few years. And one of the things, for myself, I lived in Japan for 5 years. And when I moved away and I came back to Farmers Branch, I realized how much better it actually gotten. And I really wanna do what I can to keep it going forward in that direction. So once you step away from something for a while and you come back, you kinda get a new perspective. So that's what I'd like to do, is keep Farmers Branch going forward and listen to your ideas and listen to the ideas about, trying to bring all three areas together, all that kind of stuff. I'm certainly listen to that and try to build something.
Okay, but that's not what I asked.
Mhm.
I asked if, what were you going to bring to Farmers Branch?
Well, I think I can bring my personal skills that I've learned from in life. I've grown up here in Farmers Branch. I think I can bring the history of Farmers Branch forward and move us ahead. So
Any plans for that?
I'm not coming with an agenda. I'm not coming with a bunch of promises to tell you what I think
Well,
is
not
gonna
necessarily
happen. So I'm trying to
promises, but-
come with an open mind and look at the evidence that comes before the city council and try to interview people, try to interview any person that wants to promote something to the city council. But I will always look at the evidence, look at the statements, and try to come up with the answer and try to move ahead that way. I'm not coming with a personal agenda. I'm not coming with, we must do this or this or this, or lower taxes, it'll be great if we can. I'm not gonna say, oh, let's get rid of Shell Mountain, of course we want to do that. But I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna try to take all the evidence and come to a decision with the other council members and keep Farmers Branch moving forward.
Oh, it was for both.
Okay. You said him, so I was
Well,
like,
I wanted
okay.
to- I wanted to-
Okay.
Let's just start with me.
It's like, okay. Okay, so what can I bring to it and what is my vision? So I grew up in Irving, and so it's not far down the road and it's not significantly different. We were Carpenter Ranch, when I grew up in Irving. And so I've watched it grow into Las Colinas and then grow into Valley Ranch, and I think that it was a wonderful vision. I think we need to be careful, because Valley Ranch was just absolutely amazing when it started, but then we lost the Dallas Cowboys, and when we lost that property value decreased significantly because of all the multi-level housing. So we need to grow, and having kind of lived that, been there, seen it, in that perspective of watching a city grow, we still have to have our checks and balances of what's going to maintain property values for whom is already here. And, you know, that's a fine line, you have to weigh that. The businesses are huge, we still have to get the businesses here, and to get the businesses here, we have to get code under control, make it a little easier for businesses to be here, we have to make it easier for our police to protect us, and by making it easier for them to protect us, we absolutely have to make them a priority.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Where do businesses go? I mean, unless they're, some of this old stuff here is,
That's the redevelopment.
you know, it's gonna go on the west side or the east side, and again, now I go back to my side list. I mean, I have it, you know.
We want your plan written down.
I have a question.
Jose, let's go to Jose and then we'll go to you. He's been waiting a little bit.
Multi-question to you guys, but a few years back, one of our planners moved out of Farmers Ranch because he said that there was no more planning, everything was already built and stuff like that. There was really not that much left to do. Farmers Ranch. I thought that was dumb and crazy, in my opinion, because there's a lot of new houses that are being developed. There's different opportunities in different ways, right? So, question to both of you. Our city services, I like having events and all this stuff, but I see like most of our park personnel and most of our people that supposed to be cleaning or center mediums and all that stuff, they're being used more for these events. And I'm like, what are we doing there? You know? And we're not taking care of certain areas. And then the other question is, what do you guys think also about Camelot landfill? I mean, we have somebody over there running it for us. I don't think that we get enough money, but the trash that is going there, it's not just Farmers Ranch trash, it's everybody's trash, and sooner or later this stuff is gonna be filled up, and where we're gonna, you know, it's just, what do you think about city services?
Let's start with Tina on that one.
Oh, city services, I hear a lot about that out in the field. We did a survey, Farmers Branch did a survey, and believe it or not, we hit 96% approval rating on city services. When I say I've done deep dives, I've done deep dives. But you are right, we are pulling in different directions, and it's because we're understaffed. And that's part and parcel with what happened with COVID, and it's just hard to backfill employees and to get good staff. And it is happening, I know in my business, and I've asked other businesses, if they have seen the uptick in stability with that in the last few months, and we have. So it's, you know, I mean, I know the guy over at the automotive place, and we're always belly aching together about, you know, how's it going for you with your employee stability and, you know, kind of thing, and it's become a joke with us, and it is beginning to stabilize, so that's the good news. So I think with that means that the city staff stabilizes, everybody can come back together, and our city services will improve again, and you won't feel like they're being pulled in different directions to special events as much as also taking care of medians and trash and everything. As far as the dump, you're right, it's gonna be filled, we're gonna have to find another location, that's inevitable, happens to the best of dumps. And then, honestly, what happens then is they build on top of it.
You can only go so high.
So, yeah,
Well, I
James,
think when
James.
they came up with the Camelot years ago, I think it was a great vision. It had a place for us to take our trash that was outside of the city of Farmers Branch. I think it was a great idea, but yeah, you're right, we need to start thinking about the future again. So I'm all for the idea of looking ahead, trying to find another alternative. City services, I think we've been doing a pretty good job. If we can do better, that'd be great. But is there somewhere you're seeing that we're lacking in city services?
Well, it's not necessarily lacking in city services, it's just that we're using resources in other areas versus what they were meant to be.
Mhm.
Camelot, I mean, it's just where do you go from here? Where do you take it? And I think that we sold ourselves to the devil, in many ways with whenever they went to have somebody else run it. Because, you know, like, I know that, payroll and insurance and benefits is critical and it takes a lot of money, but, you know, you might get a good deal when you sub things out, but once the contract goes up 4 or 5 years down the road, then you don't have nobody else to do it in the city, we're screwed. We're gonna bid out, and it doesn't mean that we might get 3 or 4 bids, but doesn't mean that it's the cheapest, but it's not necessarily
Not necessarily bad.
the best. Case in point is the part or the trail that is being done down Valley View, that it was for like $1.2 million, and like there's different ways to skin a cat. And some contractor, I'm like, why are you guys making some of these decisions? You know, makes no sense to me sometimes.
This lady over here, question?
My question goes back to the homeless, you know, people that we have in the area. Do you think that we have a mental health problem also?
Yes. Yes, and actually Dallas Medical Center is one of the facilities that they take them to help them. And so it is right there, and then obviously Med City down the road. But again, you can't hold somebody that is unwilling. That is their civil rights.
Are there any more plans to like maybe add more resources for mental health other than Medical City?
Not at this moment. It has not been addressed in anything that I've read since 2017.
I think that's something that should be addressed. I think all of America needs help with mental health.
Sure.
Especially since the pandemic.
James, you?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. Actually, she covered it pretty well, and I appreciate your question. Yeah.
Okay.
Our trash is, picked up by the city, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, a contractor.
A contract.
Contractor.
Unless it's a green
Is
rubber.
it through the city?
Yes.
Okay, what are the chances, because we're talking about landfill and that, you know, filling up real quick, there's a lot of recycling that goes out of my house that goes into the dumpster. Because up until just a few months ago, I didn't have the time to drive it down to dump, you know, to drop it off. What are the chances of us getting some type of receptacle for recycling or, and I realize that there could be some issues because we've got a lot of people that come in and just dump there in the dumpsters from outside the property. But can we do something, you know, that's within the confines of, you know, our living space, in the courtyards or something? Would the city provide pickup on something like that? You're saying- you're looking at-
That's kind of more, I guess, an association question, but we have
Okay.
that we have to work
We'll
through.
take it up with the association.
But
We were told no.
Really?
Yeah, I've asked.
I think we have another challenge with just trash, to be honest with you.
Okay, because they pick up recycling from other homeowners that live in single family homes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
They consider this
to me,
private,
Uh-huh.
so they wouldn't come because they consider this private. But yet they'll pick up the trash. They wouldn't get the recycling.
Okay.
see, if y'all could negotiate something to where that could be done, I think it'd be great. Myself, my wife and I, every 2 weeks, we take our recycle to the recycle center ourselves. We take it in our own car, we drop it off, they're very nice, they're very helpful over there. And they're used to seeing us coming, but we kind of feel like we need to take it to recycle. It's kind of our duty to take it to recycle. I understand you don't have the time, but we
Well,
try to
we're
do
18
that.
hours.
I know, I understand. Don't get me wrong, I understand. Fortunately
But I
myself,
think
I'm
there's-
retired now and I have more time to do it.
Sure, but I think, you know, there's a big discrepancy there too. Just because we don't live in a single family
I
home.
understand. I live
Why can't we
in, I
do
live
the
in
same
Rose
situation?
Creek, and I lived here, I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I agree, but, yeah, if y'all could work out something, that'd be great.
Yeah, so that's where we need a council
Right,
person.
if I were on there,
Consider-
I'd be a sympathetic ear to it, because we have the same problem where we're at. because it's like, well, they're not gonna come do it for us, so we gotta go do it
Definitely be
ourselves.
open to it, but it needs to work, and I don't.
Well, I'm not sure how we can do it, but maybe we could.
And it'd be nice if we could have a bulk pickup too somehow,
Yes,
for that matter.
yeah, well, we're gonna, let's do that.
Does all the recycled material actually get recycled?
Yeah.
Or is it
So I don't have any
in-
reason to doubt it doesn't, but,
I'm just-
I don't know.
I am thinking too.
I've heard statistics, 10 or 15% actually gets recycled, but I don't know.
That's not.
Oh, really? Okay.
I guess that depends on the.
It's not sure?
On the company, right?
What's the percentage?
When they finish.
Okay.
I'll think of that.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess I'm curious as to why you can't have at least one bulk pickup and recycling. I mean, I understand this is private property, I get that, you're not single-family housing, but you're still in our city.
Well, how long has it been that?
Right, you're still in our city.
Yeah. We would need to figure out the logistics of that. But we need an advocate on the city council to help us
Yeah,
with that.
I think either of us would do that for you. Yeah, that's,
So, okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I just say, because when I say the bottle milk, bottle water, when I come to my son's house, I visit to my grandson, I put in the truck, the recycle, because I didn't see around here they have. That's why I say do that. I don't want to put the recycle in the trash, you know?
Right, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
And honestly, I'm not really good at it, but my wife in the back, she knows all about it. She coaches me on what goes in what receptacle, and so I'm really trying to learn, but she's taught me.
Any other comments, Nick? On that?
I'm just separating it.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
any other comments? Anything to add? Okay. All right, any more questions? If not, I'll let them give us a little bit. You started, right, James?
Yeah, I did.
So let's let Tina start this time with some closing thoughts, and then followed by James, and then we can just mingle for a while. As long as anybody wants to stay, anybody who wants to go at that point, they can go, and so forth, so. Before we go any further, for those of you that don't know Terry Glenn, he's running for mayor, coming in May, so, he's gonna stick around too, and we'd love to talk to you as well.
So we have a couple minutes with everybody after they finish.
Yeah. We'll just do one-on-one. Oh, yes,
When
sir?
does the district go into effect, and how does that affect this district seat? Do you have to
It's
move
so
right
good.
away, or can we stay, or what's that look like for somebody that is running for a council
So,
seat?
the new map goes into effect May of 2023. District 3 is not up for re-election until 2024, May of 2024. So District 3, it's Tracy's seat right now, Omar's seat, Richard Jackson's seat, and Merritt's. So those 4 in 2024 will actually become pure into map 7. So for me, for instance, I'm just gonna say it, we are in D3. The moment 7 happens in May, we will still be D3 because I have to finish the term through 24. But I have to be in district in December. I have to be back in D3 in December of 2023 to rerun for 2024 for D3. Unless I wanted to run, move somewhere else or run somewhere else, but I don't wanna do that. But if I moved out, if I didn't move into district and I moved somewhere else, that would put me in the exact same position that Ms. Williams was in, that she moved out of district. I am in district, you're voting on this district, and this district is mine until 2024. As long as I move back in to the new map 7, in December, I stay D3, and I'm perfectly eligible to maintain both.
So that's pretty complicated.
Well, you know, that's true of any of them for the 2024
So if
elections.
you're gonna run in D3 2023,
Re-
For.
for re-election, you'd have to move again.
Well, we always intended on moving again, so that was never a
So where
question.
are you intending to move it, do you know?
Over across Farm Field.
Okay, cause when you got your special use permit, you actually had mentioned that you were building a place in Brookhaven Estates,
We had thought about it.
but you're not gonna do that.
No.
Okay, so you, all right, changed your mind.
That was a decision that was made when it came up,
Okay.
when the seat came available, because we had intended on 2024,
So
when all the
once
seats
ag-
came up.
Once again, you're not sure where you're gonna be in 2024.
Yeah, we'll be across Farm Field,
Okay, he's gonna move again, okay, got it.
and we're gonna,
I'm gonna be in District 3 regardless, whichever, 2024, 2023, we move there, I'm in the same map, I'm gonna be in the same district.
You know, there weren't a lot of people here when, before we started, you guys were talking about, dual representation, because of the remapping. Do you mind just kind of going over that again, cause I think there may be
okay,
some questions.
so, I know, it's all convoluted. So the new map takes effect May 2023. But you only have, 2 people that are, actually just one in 2023, and that's Driscoll. May of 2023, Driscoll will run. Right now, he is D2. If he runs again, he still keeps D2, but his district changes. His district, the parameters of it change. Because the parameters for everybody changed, okay? So everybody that is there until 2024 on the peripheries of the new map will have dual representation, because the map will not be pure until after the elections of May of 2024. Okay? So you will have dual representation on the peripheries, so just keep that in mind.
How does that affect us? What, I mean?
How does it affect you? I think it's a great thing, yeah,
We have dual representation.
yeah.
You can talk
You get
twice.
you get a dud, like has happened in the past.
You can talk
As a
twice.
representative, you call the other person.
Well, and that's kind of the way it goes in Farmers Branch all the time anyhow, you can call anybody, you can call any of the, council members and give them your opinion and ask for anything, so that's always been that way. When we were at large or single member districts, you can call anybody, you don't have to just call your person you voted for in your district. So, nothing really changes there.
Okay, let's go to closing arguments now. Or,
No one's on
We'll
trial.
start with Tina.
Alright. Again, for those that were kind of a little late coming in, whatever, I am Tina Bennett-Burton. I actually own a commercial property, and a business, as well as live in the district. So I am vested 100%. They get my taxes coming and going. And I'm okay with that. I love it here. We moved up from Highland Park. I grew up in Irving, so I watched Irving grow from, literally the house across the street was not there. It was the Carpenter Ranch, it was all ranch land. To building the subdivisions in, and some of the issues that went in with that, it's quite intriguing. So I think I'm really very, because I've done the business part and the residential part, I've been in front of, I've had to help people navigate through with the creek issue, and served on the board with the seniors, and I've absolutely loved it, and was pretty disappointed I had to resign before I even won. I was like, no, can't we wait a minute? I think I'm really quite capable of doing this, and I'm really looking forward to it. Again, I think we need to put the unity back in community. You guys, we're all in this together. You are our neighbors, and so the infighting, and it has to be nonpartisan. It has to be, let's grow this together, because we are location. It is amazing, and we have some of the best city staffers. We have, with the little TLC, we'll have the best police again. And they're great what we have. We just need to grow them.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up here in Farmers Branch, this is my hometown, and it is about location, 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 and it was, even back in the 1940s, when my father moved here after World War II, it was location, location, location. And I love this town. I grew up here. I've spent about 45, over 60 years living here. I have worked overseas serving my country, so I wasn't here the entire time, but I've been here as much as I can be. So I think Farmers Branch is a great place to live. And one thing I've learned working in the federal government, wearing our country's uniform is the person beside you, though you may disagree on taxes or anything, they're not your enemy. We're all on the same side. We're all pulling together. So I might have to rely on that person next to me, because even though these political differences, whatever it may be totally opposite mine, but that person, I may have to rely on that person for my life. And the same thing with that person. So we're all on the same side. So I'm gonna ask that everybody in Farmers Branch wear the same Farmers Branch uniform so we can all get together, bring unity together, and move ahead. Just because we might disagree doesn't mean we're enemies. Just because she's my opponent doesn't mean we're enemies. So I will bring that to City Council. So thank you. I hope you can see me.
Okay, with that, we're just, everybody wants